it's no more a taboo to talk about this national issue. It's a big agenda, actually.
Ethiopia's vigorous call for access to the sea has raised some eyebrows.
Those countries that are not very happy about this are on the wrong track.
This quest for access to the sea, is that something that is strongly linked with Ethiopia's history, or is it something out of the blue?
The sea has been there for years and has been having an access to it. Fortunately, geographically, Ethiopia is located closer to the seas like Red Sea.
In a situation that many powerful countries establishing their foothold, their military base in Djibouti, how long should we stay away from those important geopolitical locations?
Whatever happens in this zone, in this area, in our neighborhood, especially in the Horn of Africa, is in our interest. We have a vested interest in it.
How unfortunate it is for Ethiopia to remain landlocked at this moment in time.
That is why we should go out of these unfortunate situations.
The current Ethiopian government is making a significant departure from its predecessors by boldly expressing its desire for access to the sea. This has raised some eyebrows and controversy. Today, we shed light on the contentious issues surrounding Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea. To discuss this topic, I am joined by the veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dina Mufti. Ambassador Dina is currently a member of the Foreign Relations and Security Affairs Standing Committee of the House of People's Representatives. You're watching Diplomat's Window from AMECO English, and I'm your host, Johannes Lijadam. Stay tuned. Ambassador, thank you for taking your time to talk to us.
Thank you for inviting me to this session.
The previous government, prior to the coming into office of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, there has been this silence about this Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea, given the country's proximity to the sea. Why do you think is that?
Well, as you have said, Ethiopia is geographically very close to the sea. It has about 60 kilometers away from the sea. It has also an access to the sea for years, but that has been lost through unfortunate political activities and conspiracies that had been around. And it is very unfortunate. It's not in the interest of Ethiopia actually to have lost that sea access, because Ethiopia's access to the sea is actually in the interest of the economic development of the country, because trade has to continue, import-export has to continue, and access to the sea has to continue. It's not only that, Ethiopia has also a right that has been promulgated by the United Nations in 1982 for all the countries, landlocked countries. But Ethiopia lost that. Actually, it has become a landlocked, unfortunately. Now it's another chapter, and that chapter has to be dealt with accordingly.
Yeah, the quest for access to the sea, do you think is a public agenda, or is it like a government agenda? Because in the previous government, despite the huge silence on the part of the government, there was this huge interest, and the topic was raised by opposition parties and the public at large. And what's your take on that?
That should have been in the interest of the nation. It should have been raised earlier on. Ethiopia as a nation, together with its colleagues all over the world and the region, should have dealt with this issue of having an access to it. But the silence was a kind of conspiracy. That is very unfortunate. But thanks to the reform and the new government, that silence has been broken. And it's no more a taboo to talk about this national issue. It's a big agenda, actually. It's an agenda that is one of the major national agendas that should be dealt with at the national level. And this agenda is in the interest of Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is the second largest populous country in Africa. Its economy is growing very fast. If economy grows, there's an expansion of import-export. There's a need for tourism and the import of technology from the rest of the world. And the need for exploiting the resources, natural resources of the sea is also there. So in order to benefit from all these things, this agenda should be on the table, and Ethiopia should advance this agenda as a national agenda. And it is an idea that time has come for now.
This quest for access to the sea, is that something that is strongly linked with Ethiopia's history, or is it something out of the blue?
As you know very well, Ethiopia is one of the countries that have maintained its independence. It is a country, one of the few countries in Africa that has kept its independence, and one of the few countries in Africa that has not been colonized, not even at global level. Therefore, Ethiopia's access to the sea has been there for years, and has been having an access to it. Fortunately, geographically, Ethiopia is located closer to the seas like Red Sea, if not Indian Ocean. So therefore, Ethiopia has a long history of trading with the rest of the world, especially on sea routes like Red Sea. It has a history of navigating, it is a history of using the sea, and the access to the sea is an issue that has come up because Ethiopia has lost it for a few years, and now it's an agenda back on the table.
Since 1993, Ethiopia has been categorized under the countries of these landlocked countries. So could we reckon the economic cost of this being landlocked as a country?
It's very expensive to be landlocked. The transport and logistics is very expensive. It's a burden on the national economy. You need much more revenues for that, and you have to cover that. There's a delay of import and export because you don't have an immediate access to it. You are moving through others' infrastructures and others' territory, and that has challenges in itself. Your interest is more than 90% of our export-import comes through one port, and God forbid if something unfortunate happens to that port. Imagine what will happen to the country, what will happen to your import-export, what will happen to your economy. God forbid if there is economic crisis or political crisis or security problems in the country that you use a port in, there is a disaster that you are going to face. So the need for having an access, diverse access to ports is out there and is very vivid, and this is something that Ethiopia has to work on day and night. And we should mobilize all our resources. We should mobilize our knowledge, our efforts, our know-how, and our people, our colleagues all over the world, so as to get this port access and ensure the security and safety of our economic progress.
In a situation that many powerful countries establishing their foothold, their military base in Djibouti, do you think Ethiopia, how long should we stay away from those important geopolitical locations?
Well, whatever happens in this zone, in this area, in our neighborhood, especially in the Horn of Africa, is in our interest. We have a vested interest in it. Our security is interrelated, our progress is interrelated, our challenges are equally interrelated. By the same token, we use the opportunities that come out of our efforts also together. As you have said, Djibouti, the port we are using, it has so many military bases of big powers. Well, it is a sovereign interest of Djibouti to allow them to give them bases, and we don't have a problem with that. But in our interest of navigating smoothly and in our interest of importing, exporting through that coast smoothly, we need to balance our relationship and have a very good and cordial relationship with all of them. We need to deal with them, we need to work with them, we need to cooperate with them. It's not only that, we should work also on diversifying our port access. This could be done through diversifying our infrastructural development with the rest of the countries, especially with other neighbors. We should link with them through roads, through railroads, through energies, electricity and water supplies, as we have already started. And if we interrelate, if we interlink our infrastructure, definitely our interest will coincide. Our interests will be interrelated. Our interests will go together, and there will be a sympathy of one to the other, and we have less problems of accessing the sea, accessing the port, and developing our nation.
Yeah. As I said in the beginning of my introduction, Ethiopia's vigorous call for access to the sea has raised some eyebrows by some neighboring countries. Why do you think that?
Countries are interrelated, our interests are interrelated. If you take the Horn of Africa, the interest of one member or one country of the Horn is the interest of the other. The security problem in one of these regions is the problem of the other as well. It cannot be confined to only the country where the security problem arises. The challenges that emanate in one country, the challenges that is created in one country is the challenge of the other as well. Whatever problems we face is their problem as well. Our access to sea, opportunities for our import-export to flourish, and our benefits is their benefits as well. If we grow, they will grow. So our interests are interrelated. Therefore, all we have to tell the rest of the world, especially our neighbors, is that our interest is very much interrelated. As much as we have similarities of culture, people, and we have also similarities of interests. Therefore, we should work together, we should cooperate, we should link our interests. But those countries that are not very happy about this are on the wrong track. They are misled perhaps by some selfish motives which won't serve them. Because Ethiopia's prosperity, Ethiopia's growth, Ethiopia's comfort should be their comfort. It cannot be their discomfort. That is why we see now, whenever there is a conflict in one of the neighboring countries, people come to us. We host them, we give them hospitalities. That is what we are doing to our colleagues, our brothers and sisters from neighboring countries. The same is true if unfortunate situation happens in Ethiopia because of underdevelopment, because of lack of access to the sea. That unfortunate situation will affect them as well. They will be burdened by the inflow of immigrants. So therefore, they misconceived it. They couldn't understand things. They have to properly rethink and say, and sort out their positions and rectify their wrong lines with their advancing right now. They should not be force or adversaries to Ethiopia's positions to have a sea. They should support it rather.
So what is your message for leaders who see Ethiopia's quest to access the sea as a threat for their national sovereignty?
Ethiopia's prosperity, Ethiopia's comfort is their comfort of them as well. Because we are interrelated. Our interest is linked, interlinked. And therefore, my call on these leaders is actually to support us, to come forward and support Ethiopia's position, Ethiopian access to the sea, and to clearly and vocally say that let's grow together. That is what is happening when it comes to our Grand Renaissance Dam, which has been inaugurated very recently. The electricity that comes out of the Grand Renaissance Dam is going to benefit some of our neighbors as well. Some of them have even started benefiting from it. They are getting light from here. This should continue. The same thing holds true. If they develop, we shall develop. If they progress, we shall progress. So our progress, our development, our prosperity is very much interrelated. And then our call on them is actually, let's act together. So in this very turmoil world, either we swim together or we sink together. But let us not think, let us swim, let us navigate the challenging world.
Do you think enough job has been done on the part of Ethiopia by making sure that its quest for access to the sea is not a threat for none of its neighbors?
Well, this is a new phenomenon, this is a new process. As much as it is a new, actually, it's progressing. I don't think enough has been done. We need to do more. We should not be, we should be vigilant, we should work out, we should go out and convince the rest of the world, particularly our neighbors, that our interest is interrelated. And we should show them practically that we benefit together. And I think more has to be done. Things have started, things are underway, but still there are more efforts that we need to exert so as to convince them and bring them on our side. It's not only with them, their colleagues, their friends outside, institutions. You know, with our neighboring countries, we are in the same institutions. We are members of IGAD. And this position has to be IGAD's position as well. IGAD also should advance this. We are members, we share also membership with the same organizations. That is, we share membership of the African Union. African Union also should pursue these positions. International organizations like the United Nations themselves should also pursue this. Our colleagues, big powers, also should help us on this. And our unity, our common effort, is more advantageous to us than the disadvantage some of us envisage.
As of now, 5 of Ethiopia's neighbors have some sort of sea outlet. Given Ethiopia's proximity to this country, how unfortunate it is for Ethiopia to remain landlocked at this moment in time?
Well, that is why we should go out of these unfortunate situations. You know, it should have been an opportunity for us. The situation in which we find ourselves is different. We don't have sea access as such, as much as we need. But these our neighbors have it. Let's develop it together. Let's work out the way to cooperate. Let's be together. And this is how we should proceed. And instead of regretting for what has happened, we should look forward and work out the way forward.
Some of our neighbors have this hundreds of thousands of kilometers of stretched coastline that is literally undeveloped. So, given Ethiopia's potential for growth, what would be the benefits of this cooperation?
Yeah, definitely. This is, you know, Ethiopia is looking for an access to the coast, to the port, and the way it wants to acquire is peaceful, through give and take, through win-win approach. This comes through developing the infrastructure between us and these coast-owning nations or countries on the ports. Infrastructure should be developed, railroads should be developed, as we have started with Djibouti. That should be expanded. We need to link through energy, as we have started this cooperation already with some of them. There should be road constructions also. Trade should be boosted. Our trade relationship should grow. Exchange of experiences in the areas of development, exchange of experience in the areas of agricultural productions, exchange of commodities, and this should take place widely and vividly. And if we continue doing this, if we link strongly, vigorously, definitely we'll win and we can proceed as we have wanted.
Yeah, I think it is time to clarify some of the misconceptions or the misinformations regarding Ethiopia's quest to access the sea. One is that Ethiopia is not genuine about this access to the sea. Rather, it is an agenda to divert attention from its internal problems. There are such kind of comments that are coming out as a reaction to Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea. And as a member of parliament and a member of this Foreign Relations and Security Affairs Standing Committee, what is your response to that?
There are things that should be very clear for everyone. Is Ethiopia not one of the most populous countries out of the landlocked countries? There are about 44 landlocked countries on the planet Earth. There are 16 of them in Africa. Ethiopia is a country with the largest populations. Ethiopia has also a growing economy. Don't we think that Ethiopian export-import grows? How come we don't think that this needs also a port access and diversification of the port? Don't we think that Ethiopia needs also the import and export of other materials, technology, the need for tourism? If the need of Ethiopia is objective, if this need is there, it's clear that there is no any other hidden agenda on the part of Ethiopia to get it. Ethiopian leadership has also articulated how they want to go about getting the access to the sea. It has been articulated that Ethiopia wants to do this on the basis of win-win situations. Ethiopia wanted to get this on the basis of give and take. Ethiopia said Ethiopia wants to get this peacefully. Though it is known that Ethiopia has an access as a landlocked country to a sea, in view of the international conventions of the United Nations on the seas, Ethiopia is pursuing these positions clearly. There is no hidden motive on the part of Ethiopia to hurt others with this pretext. It's clear. Ethiopia is saying, speaking about it, is articulating it, and will continue to articulate it as well. Ethiopia will use all diplomatic means to get it, and there is no any other hidden agenda. There is no any intrigue there. There is no anything that Ethiopia hides from the rest of the world when it comes to this agenda. It's doing this clearly, it's doing it vividly, it's doing it, in such a manner. So why do we talk about hidden agendas? Why do we think about Ethiopia having some other agendas? Because Ethiopia has no reason to hide whatever it wants to do, because what Ethiopia pursues, what Ethiopia wants, is not illegal. It is something that is legally there. It is her right. Of course, countries implement these rights. Some of them do it through bilateral means, others do it through multilateral means. There are others who go to arbitrations, but Ethiopia wants to do this peacefully. And as long as Ethiopia wants that, I think it will be in the interest of those coastal countries also to cooperate with Ethiopia and support Ethiopia and side Ethiopia on this issue.
How do you ascertain that what Ethiopia do is not somewhat a pretext to invade any country or any place?
Ethiopia is genuine in its positions when it comes to the projects it has been undertaking. For example, the very beginning of the Greater Renaissance Dam, the way it has started, the way it has been portrayed, misportrayed, misrepresented by others, can clearly show how Ethiopia used to be genuine and has continued to be that. When the GERD project was started, there are countries that have been against it, that have been vehemently opposing it. They were saying Ethiopia is going to hurt us, Ethiopia is going to take away our water. But Ethiopia was clearly telling the downstream countries that they will never be hurt. Ethiopia was telling the downstream countries that the GERD rather benefits them. For example, for the Sudanese, it reduces the flood that comes to Sudan on annual basis, because the water will be regulated in the GERD. The regulation of the water actually will reduce the flooding of Sudan. And not only that, When the project is completed, Sudan will get an electricity, a power, through reasonable prices. This is hydropower is healthy power, is reasonable power, is environmentally advisable power. Something was being told about Egypt. It doesn't reduce the water amount that flows down to Egypt. Now the GERD is completed. Nothing of that disastrous nature that has been portrayed or misrepresented by the downstream countries has happened. Things are more or less are as normal as they used to be. Something will be true about Ethiopia's access to the sea. There are some forces, there are some countries that come out and portray Ethiopia's project due to their vested interest. And it's misconception, it's misunderstanding. It's a big failure of understanding what Ethiopia is doing all about. It's simply Ethiopia is calm enough, Ethiopia is seasoned enough to tell them the right things, and this is what has been happening. And the same thing is true about Ethiopia's quest for sea access. It's not against the interest of anyone.
Yes.
It's not against the interest of those coastal countries. It will be in the interest of Ethiopia, not only in the interest of Ethiopia, it will be in the interest of all, because we think our interest is interrelated. The progress of Ethiopia, the development of Ethiopia, the comfort of Ethiopia is their comfort as well. I have to repeat again, this is a turmoily world. In this turmoil water, we should swim together, but we should not sink together. This is what Ethiopia is telling all those coastal countries, all those countries that are against Ethiopia's interest and that are misrepresenting Ethiopia's interest.
Yeah, so you are ascertaining me that this is an Ethiopian agenda that is going to be implemented through peaceful means.
Definitely. This is what Ethiopia has been saying. It's in the interest of Ethiopia to peacefully and diplomatically pursue its interests, its national interest. This national interest is being pursued on the basis of win-win, on the basis of give and take, on the basis of mutual advantage and mutual benefit for all of us. As long as this is the case, I think there is no reason for other countries to come against Ethiopian interest and misperceive it or misrepresent it, as we hear now from some quarters.
Yeah.
But they are not many, I think. The majority of the international community, many members of the international community, many countries really understand the genuine intention of Ethiopia.
Yeah, I think some of the fears by our neighboring countries somewhat understandable from the perspective of our past history with these countries, because we have some sort of conflict in the past with some of the countries in the coastline, along the coastline. So do you think the Ethiopian diplomatic community has done enough to make sure that these countries understand Ethiopia's interests very clearly?
By the way, Ethiopia's track record of supporting African countries, leave alone the neighboring countries, all African countries had been vividly out there. Ethiopia had been supporting genuinely the liberation of most African countries. If you go back to see Ethiopian history, most of the African liberation fronts have been trained in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia has been supporting them diplomatically, politically, on all fronts. Ethiopia has also contributing a lot to maintain peace and security in African countries. Ethiopia has been sending peacekeeping forces to Liberia, Burundi, Rwanda, Somalia, Sudan. Ethiopia is doing this genuinely out of its interest for Africa. Now Ethiopian foreign policy is focused on neighboring countries. We view neighbors as ourselves, and we care about their interest. And leave alone our neighbors, Ethiopia, that's why I say it has been caring about the rest of Africa. So Ethiopia has a very genuine track record of, sympathizing with the interest of the African countries. And it's not in Ethiopia's track record hurting others. And there is no reason now also to do that. That is what Ethiopia is still doing. And whatever projects Ethiopia undertake won't be against the interests of other African countries. It will be in their interest rather, with the GERD we have said, with the Grand Renaissance Dam, with our pursuit or quest for the sea coast is also similar and cannot be any different. Ethiopia's prosperity, Ethiopia's progress, Ethiopia's stability, we think, is in the stability of our brothers and sisters in our neighbors and even in Africa at large. This is Ethiopian genuine foreign policy motto and motive. As long as this is the case, I think these our neighbors have no reason to suspect Ethiopia and no to doubt Ethiopia's intentions, and think Ethiopia would go out and take an initiative that hurts them at any rate.
What would Ethiopia offer to countries along the coastline in return to sea access?
Well, we develop infrastructures, and we cooperate in developing the ports infrastructure development. Most of these ports are not well developed. The first thing we should do is actually the unfortunate thing that I have want to mention is that the issue of peace and stability in our regions is yet to be dealt with. We wish stability for our both Sudanese brothers and sisters. We wish peace and stability for our Somali brothers and sisters. We do our level best to help them to stabilize themselves first, and then we'll work on developing infrastructure as we have started. We'll work on linking ourselves through roads, railroads, through energy, as we have already started. And therefore, whatever we do here in Ethiopia will be in their interest as well. Whenever we carry out a project at national level, we share them our experiences, we share them the benefits, we share them the prices, and we share things that we get from our projects. So developing the infrastructure, port infrastructure is one thing. Linking our countries through roads, railroads, electricity is another thing. Strengthening or boosting our trade, enlarging our trade is also another benefit. So it will be a matter of giving and taking. These are some of the benefits that they'll get from us. The progress of Ethiopia, the progress of Ethiopia will be theirs, and their progress will be ours as well. In a way, we are thinking about integrating our region. That is the agenda of IGAD as well.
Let's talk about IGAD, and how is IGAD responding to Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea and making sure that countries do not look at this agenda suspiciously, rather come together and cooperate for a better, prosperous East Africa?
IGAD is basically an organization, a regional organization composed of regional states. Whatever IGAD does is as good as whatever the states do, and sometimes IGAD as an organization is also in the interest of bringing these member countries together, integrating them through various means, integrating their economy. And therefore, we think IGAD is supportive of our motives, our interests, because whatever we do here is also will strengthen IGAD. Ethiopia's progress, Ethiopia's development, Ethiopia's cohesion is their IGAD's cohesion as well. We contribute to its strength by strengthening ourselves. Same thing holds true for other IGAD member countries. Whatever they do will contribute to IGAD if they do it positively. Whatever problems we find in them, in each member countries, is IGAD's problem as well. So IGAD shares the benefits the challenges and the opportunities of the member countries as well. The same thing is happening. Same is true with regard to our projects.
Regarding to the realization of Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea, what are the regional challenges, the geopolitical challenges, security challenges that stand on Ethiopia's way?
Our region, the Horn of Africa, has its own challenges. We do have security challenges. The presence of Al-Shabaab in the region is one of the biggest challenges, security challenges. We do have the presence of ethnic conflicts here and there. There are wars going on, conflicts going on. These are man-made problems, like, sometimes we see the reflections of all these crises as human trafficking, arms trafficking, and these are some of the problems. We do have also natural disasters like flooding, earthquake, desertification that comes out of the climate change. These problems combined together are the problems of the region, and to overcome these problems also have an impact on our quest for the sea. Our efforts to have an access to the sea will be actually sometimes impacted negatively by these situations that I've mentioned. As much as we make our efforts to have an access to the sea, we should deal also with these challenges that I've mentioned. We should work on bringing solutions to them as well. For example, conflicts must be overcome through diplomatic means. Conflicts should be overcome through negotiations. Conflicts should be overcome through deals among conflicting parties. With regard to Al-Shabaab, actually there is a common effort by international community as well as neighboring countries to fight it out. That also has to be strengthened. Peacekeeping in Somalia should be reinforced and should be financed. This is one of the agendas on the table as well. The situation in Sudan also should get solutions, and we should overcome it through peaceful means. So these efforts and other similar efforts, if they are carried out intensively and continuously with various means, definitely their impacts will be lessened, and we can overcome them, and our interest for sea access will be realized.
What are the international rules and regulations that Ethiopia rely on to realize its ambition?
The United Nations Conventions on the Seas that has been promulgated in 1982. This is a regulation, this is a rule, UN conventions that allows landlocked countries to have an access to the sea. There are various articles in this convention which stipulate that landlocked countries should not be barred, should not be prevented from having an access to the sea. In fact, the implementation of these rules varies from one country to another. Some countries implement it on bilateral basis. This is what we are pursuing. This is what we are advancing. This is a position we have as well. We want to negotiate with those countries, with the coast countries, on bilateral basis. There are others who pursue this on multilateral basis, and there are others also who take these issues to arbitrations, and arbitration is also the case. This is one of the ways of implementing it in case problems happens. There is also international court that deals with this issue, and if countries face problems with regard to the implementation of this rule, of the UN rule on the sea, they can take the issue to the United Nations, to this international court, this particular court which had been formed to deal with this issue. These are some of the ways that these countries can use. These are some of the ways that the international convention works out. So, but on our case, we are saying let's do it by talking with each other. Let's do it on bilateral basis. Let's deal only with the countries that owns the coast, and let's talk with them and settle the issues and come together and work together and cooperate. This is what Ethiopia is saying.
What is the reaction of the African Union and the international community for Ethiopia's quest to access the sea, and what kind of support did Ethiopia or do Ethiopia need to realize its ambition?
We can assume there are international regional institutions that may support this. For example, IGAD is a regional institution that may support this. The African Union, also as a continental organization, will be in support of this, definitely. The UN, because it has already conventions that has put forward. But international institutions normally have problems with implementing their regulations. They're different from states, which can implement their regulations through enforcement mechanisms. Since these international institutions, and like the UN, don't have institutions, they don't do it like that. But we can assume they are supportive of it, and that there is support out there. This support comes from their conventions, because they themselves has already put out the rule, they have put out the regulations, and therefore there is a support. You can assume that. But all you can do is to capitalize on this support and advance your position so that you can implement it.
Finally, before we end this interview, I would like to give you a chance to address people from neighboring countries directly who see this Ethiopia's quest to access the sea as a kind of alarm. So you can have your message to them directly.
Ethiopia is an African country. Ethiopia is grateful to what other African countries have done for her. And Ethiopia also would like to remind them that it has contributed a lot to the liberation of the African countries. Ethiopia has been contributing immensely to the peace, prevalence of peace in the African countries where instability happened. Ethiopia has worked a lot to strengthen the African Union. Ethiopia is a genuine member, founding member of the African Union, the United Nations and others. So Ethiopia would like to appeal to the rest of the world to give her support, to at least give her moral support, political support, diplomatic support for Ethiopia's interest. And Ethiopia would like to assure them, I would like to assure them that Ethiopia is not out there to hurt anyone, and Ethiopia is out there only to benefit. Ethiopia's position is always a win-win and diplomatic. Thank you.
Ambassador Dina Mufti, thank you for taking your time to talk to us.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Dear viewers, you got valuable information from this interview. Until we meet next time with another guest and another topic, take care.